Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome guests and welcome guests online. The town of Quispamsis is modifying our plan to recognize September 30th, the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Due to the recent surge in COVID-19 cases in the recent surge in COVID-19 of cases in the province, we do not believe it is appropriate to have a large gathering of our staff and residents in one location. I will be recording messages which we will post on YouTube and our social media channels for the residents of our community. Staff will be encouraged to take a few moments on September 30th to watch the videos, pause, and reflect. This will allow us to recognize the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation while ensuring we protect our staff from the spread of COVID-19. We simply cannot afford to put them at risk. We are proud of Quispamsis' Indigenous heritage. Call to action number 57 in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report calls upon all levels of government, including municipalities, to provide education to public servants. September 30th is the next step in this process for the town of Quispamsis. We now read a treaty acknowledgement at the beginning of each council meeting. We will be moving forward with further educational opportunities for our staff in the months ahead. As of September 22nd, tomorrow, anyone entering municipal buildings must wear a mask and must show proof of being double vaccinated. Please, if you are eligible to get vaccinated, those 12 years old and over, please help to protect our community by participating and protecting our most vulnerable, all residents, children right up through seniors. Please stay tuned for any changes within our community and our region as COVID numbers are on the rise. It's time to flatten these numbers. Today I heard that there are 509 cases throughout the province. 24 of those are hospitalized and 11 of those are in ICU. So please keep those people in your prayers and thoughts. A number of the people who have been diagnosed have not received their 2 vaccinations. So please, let's keep that in mind. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda, please. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Bigger on the question. Please vote now. Carried 7-0. I've done the mayor's comments. Councillor Luck, may I have the treaty acknowledgement?
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Micmac people, whose ancestors, along with Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interests of our community, which you are here to serve.
Thank you very much, Councillor Luck. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that Councillor Miller is online this evening and joining the meeting via video. Are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing there are none, we will move to presentations. And this evening we have QMS Art Smart Project, a request for one-day use of the Qplex Arena floor as venue for 75 feet by 65 feet, art installation focused on Every Child Matters movement. Please come forward and please give your name for the clerk and your address.
My name is Heidi Stoddart, and my home address, 32 Bernard Court, Quispamsis. So I'm the art teacher at Quispamsis Middle School. Good evening. We are in the process of applying for an Art Smarts grant, and we are hoping to use space at the Qplex for one day for the final phase of the project, a massive temporary art installation that requires a large floor surface that can be viewed from above or at a distance. Our Art Smarts project will target two areas for affecting change: First Nations education and the Every Child Matters movement, and also the environmental impact of cardboard waste. We envision this QMS project to include the town of Quispamsis and the Qplex, which will further the reach of this project into our community. Bonnie Hill, a contemporary New Brunswick artist, is partnering with the school, and having led large-scale community art projects in recent years, she is anticipating media interest and coverage. So tonight we're here to ask you for the donation of the Qplex rink floor for one weekday, with the potential for extending that into the evening for a public viewing. A bit of information about what we are planning. So our Art Smarts grant, should it be granted to us, will support the partnership of a professional artist and will cover our art materials. And here with us tonight, I have Bonnie Hill, who's our artist from Sussex. We have Bridget Miller, one of our grade 8 social studies teachers, and Janelle LeBlanc, who is our First Nations education coach. And we're all part of the team applying for this grant. So it's called The Power of the Individual to Affect Change. And in social studies, students will explore the amount of cardboard waste that is being created in this age of home delivery and more online shopping. And they will also target reconciliation through education. So we're hoping to take steps to address the mistreatment of First Nations children in Canada. And I'm going to ask Janelle just to speak more specifically to this point.
Thank you. Welcome. And please give your name and address for the clerk.
Thank you. My name is Janelle LeBlanc, and my address is 12 Calistoga and Rothsay. Thank you so much for having us this evening. So if you're not familiar with the term the 60s scoop, it is a period of approximately 30 years in Canadian history that intensified in the 1960s, where approximately 20,000 Inuit, First Nations, and Métis children were removed from their families and communities, often without parental consent, and sent into the child welfare system. Many went through the foster care system, and many were adopted into non-Indigenous families, about 70% of them. And the majority lost connections with their cultures through this process. Along with the residential school system, it is now acknowledged that the 60s scoop was a process of forced assimilation on Indigenous children in Canada.
Thanks, Janelle. So how this connects to our project. The art project will involve having the students meet Minda Burley. Minda is a survivor of the 60s scoop, and as a child she was taken from her Cree family in Western Canada to be raised by a white family in New Brunswick, and she's only recently learning of siblings and extended family. So our artist, Bonnie, is going to take a childhood photo of Minda, pixelate it using software to create a large grayscale image. And for this process, the QMS art students will collect cardboard waste so that it can be repurposed. They will cut this cardboard waste into thousands of 6-inch squares, and then they will paint each square of cardboard to correspond with the pixelated image. And this is where we see the Qplex coming in for the installation or the assembling of the temporary work. So we need this large, flat floor surface, much like the Qplex rink floor, with an elevated area that it can be viewed from, so the raised walking track would be perfect for that. This will involve approximately 185 students participating, coming a class at a time to the Qplex to install their cardboard pieces row by row. And we envision the students wearing orange shirts, which have become symptomatic of the Every Child Matters movement. When finished, this work would measure approximately 75 by 60 feet, and when viewed from above, should recreate that childhood portrait of Minda Burley, the survivor of the 60s scoop. We also anticipate to have the assembling and the completed work captured through drone and time-lapse photography. If we have the opportunity to extend that assembled artwork into the evening, it would also allow our QMS families and the community at large to attend an evening viewing, potentially with involvement or opening remarks from the town. Afterwards, that installation will be taken apart, but the cardboard squares will be passed on to another school to create another portrait of another First Nations child, in a sense, passing on that learning and passing on the opportunity to affect change. So we thank you very much for the time to present here at Council this evening, and we thank you in advance for your consideration of our request to use the Qplex for our art installation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stoddard. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I thought it was really well done, and I'm super excited to support an amazing initiative. I don't know if you remember, but you actually taught me art at Rossay Elementary. It's been a really long time, but it's really nice to see you again. So I don't mean to be a bit of a buzzkill or anything, but the only question I have is whether this event will still be open to the public, or if you have decided to make it, a student and staff event. With the rising COVID cases, I begin to worry a little bit about any possible outbreaks, and would really hate to see one occur at such a special event. Do you have, or would you develop a COVID plan? Thank you. Sure, go ahead.
So we've been presenting tonight in light of the new adjustments that have been made provincially for the protocols. We would have to go and pivot depending on what is expected from public health at the time. The fact that we're trying to involve drone photography and time-lapse photography might mean it's a virtual event. And we would also make sure that our classes, were they able to come to the Qplex to do it, following current protocols, we would try to keep those classes isolated one at a time within their bubbles. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I totally support it, and recognizing that you understand the COVID restrictions and everybody will be working within those. I guess it's a time for all of us to be really nimble, right? Be able to adjust when we can. But I just love the idea of making that presentation at 75 feet by 60 feet. That's tremendous. And I just wondered what age the children are that will be building it. Is it the entire school, or is it just for a certain age group? And my next question would be about Minda Burley. Will she be here? Is she going to come?
Yeah, so she will actually, she will present to the students either in person or virtually, depending on what we're able to do. And she would be here to be part of the presentation, absolutely, to see the finished work that is presented. And the students that are involved will be just our grade 8 students, so 13, 14-year-olds, but it will be all of our grade 8s. Okay?
Thank you. There is a motion accompanying this presentation. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation. I too am thrilled to see this. Hopefully I'll see it via drone or in person. I would move that Council approve the use of the Qplex dry floor for Quispamsis Middle School's Art Smarts project on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, as recommended by staff.
It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question. Seeing that there are none. Councillor Olson, did you have a question or a comment? No? Okay. Seeing that there are none, please vote now. Motion carried, 7-0. Thank you very much for being here this evening and for making this wonderful presentation. And again, it's a part of our community doing the right thing. So thank you for the hard work that you have ahead of you. Thanks. The next item is public hearings. Seeing that there are none, we will move to item number 7, minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move that the minutes of our previous council meeting, September 7th, 2021, be approved as prepared.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. On the question, seeing that there are none, please vote now. Motion carried, 7-0. Unfinished business, item 8A, Safe Start Agreement Funds, staff report. Is there somebody who would like to speak to that? Ms. Brandon, our treasurer?
Sure. So in 2021, we did receive $990,000, $990,447.16 to be more specific, in Safe Restart funds, and we also received $240,769 resulting from the elimination of the P gap. So those were two unbudgeted revenue sources that we have received in 2021. And you've noticed in our monthly unaudited financial statements that we're showing a surplus. We're showing that surplus because we have received these unbudgeted funds. So our executive team kind of met to go through utilizing some of the communication from Finance Committee and whatnot. And we went through and tried to kind of prioritize where we felt that these dollars could be best utilized for our town. They're in the report, but in essence, we have the Qplex roof reflective coating for $150,000. This was a budgeted item. It was in the budget at a cost given to us from a supplier at a point in time. When we went to go and do this work, the cost had quadrupled. It was a significant increase to be able to do this. Again, we are seeing some of this in some of our projects due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing delay, we're seeing cost increases. We've seen it in lumber and whatnot. So we felt that this was a very good use of the money. It was a budgeted project. We'd be able to complete it, and then we'd also be able to maintain the LEED standards that we have on it, and over time save money on electricity as we're absorbing some of this into the building. Another item that we had recommended was the our utility building. So this building has been on the books for a few years now. Again, we've seen significant impact of COVID on building this building. The lumber, in essence, was a huge part of it, almost 45% of the cost, and the significant increase we've seen in lumber costs. Everyone, I think, knows about that. So by utilizing some of these monies, we'll be able to kind of complete this important building for our town, be able to kind of have all of these important things that our utility department needs to have storage and space and all of that. And then we've also had to deal with some issues due to the adjacent wetland that we need to make sure is accounted for, and that we're doing everything that we need to do. The other piece, the other project number 3, was the Wildwood Treatment Remediation Project. So this was, again, noted in, I think, my May financial statements that we had an unbudgeted emergency cost related to fixing this. to the tune of about $115,000. Again, it's an unbudgeted expense. We feel like this would be good utilization of the unbudgeted money we received. And then the other piece is our water tower interior and exterior rehabilitation. So again, this was a project that was included in our 2021 utility capital budget at a cost of $210,000. But the quotes again were significantly higher. We had a lot of trouble scheduling. This is an important piece of work that has to happen. The coating, Gary can go into more explanation on it, but this is where our water sits, so it's very important that the internal coating is done appropriately, the external to help keep it, I don't know what the word is, protected. And again, some of these bidders are out of province, so again, some significant costs to that. And then, as you know, the new order will be coming into play tonight. We have additional requirements, and we have ongoing COVID costs that we as a town have been tracking and recording in our financial statements. So we would use some of this money to offset those unbudgeted COVID costs as well. And then if there was any remaining funds, then we would transfer it to 75% to our general capital fund, 25% to our utility capital fund for future projects. Anyone to add, Gary or Dana?
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. On behalf of council, I would recommend that the following amounts of the additional funds received be allocated to the following projects. 1, Qplex, roof reflective coating reinstatement, $150,000. Number 2, utility building, $200,000. 3, wildwood treatment remediation, emergency repairs, $115,000, and water tower interior and exterior rehabilitation, $150,000. And that any remaining amounts first offset any direct COVID-19 expenses, and then 75% of the remaining available funds be transferred to the general capital reserve, and 25% be transferred to the utility capital reserve for future capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Thank you, Your Worship. To you through to the Treasurer. Perhaps maybe a small explanation of what the PGAP is, and then that you refer to. And I'm just wondering, for discussion purposes, is perhaps that amount be, utilized for keeping our tax rate down a little bit, or going towards a special fund, because that's where it came from, was through tax assessments, that I understand how the PGAP works. So just your thoughts on that and consideration. And I see Councillor Miller also has his hand up.
Thank you. Ms. Brandon.
Sure. So the PGAP was kind of the protection mechanism by which kind of assessments were protected. And we did get $240,000 from that. Earlier in the year, we did transfer $500,000 to the street capital plan. So in essence, I utilized that $240,000 at that point in time with the $500,000 for the street capital, because really that's kind of what that piece was for. And we used some of the other COVID restart money to bring it up to that $500,000. So we will see the PGAP revenue kind of now on an ongoing basis within our assessment. So that really that grant has gone towards the additional $500,000 that we put in for our 2021 street capital.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. Anything else on that? You okay?
Wait my turn.
Oh, okay. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I only had one question because I see that the Wildwood was obviously an emergency fund, so we've already done that. It stated that the water tower, we'd rather do that in the spring, so that one's delayed till next year. I just have a question on the Qplex roof coating. Is there any possibility that we can finish that this year, or is that also delayed till 2022? Thank you.
Your Worship.
Ms. Burton Dixon.
Okay, thank you. Your Worship, that's delayed till 2022 as well, and it's due to timing. There has to be certain temperatures in order to do that project, and the material supply, again, due to COVID, has been delayed significantly, so we couldn't get the materials to do the work during the time frame required in 21.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Miller is happy with that response. And did we have the vote on that, or the movers yet? So Councillor Olson moved that, and it's been seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item number 9, correspondence. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move that council refer the Canada Cases Regional Joint Board of Police Commissioners' proposed 2022 budget to the Finance Committee as part of the 2022 budget process.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item B, Kennebec Regional Fire Department, Inc. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move that council refer the Kennebec Valley Fire Department, Inc.'s proposed 2022 budget to the Finance Committee as part of the 2022 budget process.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier. It's been seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item C, Mr. Mark McLeod, Fundy Regional Service Commission. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move that any comments of council concerning the Fundy Regional Service Commission's proposed 2022 budget be referred to Mayor O'Hara, the town's representative on the Fundy Regional Service Commission, to pass along to the Commission at their upcoming October 25th, 2021 meeting, at which time the Commission members will be voting on the final Fundy Regional Service Commission 2022 budget.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm just I know we did an amendment to the recycling program, and will that cause a reduction in costs for services that you're aware of with no recycling of the garbage, plastic garbage bags?
I'm not aware of any changes that have taken place at this point, but I can find that out for you. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Your Worship. I just took note that the tipping fee is going up slightly. It hasn't gone up in a very long time. However, it will impact our bottom line on our budget.
That's
I'm
correct.
not sure how, but it shouldn't be too difficult, but I'm sure it will impact our bottom line.
It is going up, and as you've noted, like everything else is going up in price, and we have not increased that in a number of years. I think 2014 perhaps, so, or 2004. 2003. Okay. So if there is a specific question, please let me know, and I will make sure that I get the response to that. At this point in time, that I know that it is going up, and it's in response to costs that, and the other thing too, you can imagine that at the Regional Services Commission, with COVID, that has caused a lot of changes there as well in order to do the work that has to be done. Certainly staffing is a priority as far as safety is concerned. So it's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson on the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Arlene Mortensen requests to light up the town hall. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that the town of Quispamsis join Dyslexia Canada in bringing awareness to the learning differences associated with dyslexia by lighting up the town hall entrance area red the week of October 20th, 2021 in support of the 15 to 20% of the population living with dyslexia.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier on the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Letter from Pat Downey requesting for traffic lights, Palmer Brook. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Your Worship. Recognizing that the Palmer Brook and the Hampton Road are both provincially designated highways and fall under the province's jurisdiction, I move that Ms. Pat Downey's letter be issued to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure with a cover letter from the town requesting that what actions can be implemented to address Mrs. Downey's concerns, and Mr. Downey be copied on same.
It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Donovan on the question. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Loge, Director of Engineering. I'm just wondering, there's numerous intersections on that stretch of the highway. We have Palmer Brook, we have Elliott Road, we have the Stock Farm Road. So what are your thoughts on traffic lights on that street, and how do you feel about that? Like, how would we present it to the province, I guess, in a manner that would seem appropriate for lights to be installed?
Your Worship, the province has a warrant analysis that they conduct. So to make sure that it's impartial and done appropriately, what they require is a warrant, which is an examination of the level of traffic, the hours of the peak traffics, the number of accidents that occur at that particular intersection. And so they would do that analysis, and they have a set rate that has to be met to enable them to say that, yes, that particular intersection warrants the installation of traffic lights. And we've gone through that exercise on a couple of occasions, particularly on the Hampton Road at the arterial, Hampton Road, as well as on the arterial at Millennium Drive. So as the traffic levels increase and as there are a higher number of accidents, there deems to be a necessity for those lights. So what we'll see is that on the Hampton Road, whether it's the Stock Farm or the Palmer Brook or the Elliott or the Hammer River at the other end, you're going to see them probably undertake the same type of analysis. Now, the thing that should be aware of is that the province is not funding traffic lights on designated highways. They would likely come back to the municipality and say, if you want to see traffic lights at this particular intersection, it does or doesn't meet the warrants. But if it does meet the warrants, the municipality, are you willing to contribute to it? And then we would have to decide to make it a budget item. At this stage of the game, it's relatively premature to say the town would cost share because we're outside of our budget process, but also we don't know if there's actually a necessity to have traffic lights there. So as far as the appropriateness, I think Mr. Downey and most of the residents in that particular area would probably experience those at those peak times, at early morning, end of day type of thing. And the middle of the day is likely what's not going to have those intersections meet the warrant, in my opinion. I think you're going to see that the volumes are going to be lower than they want to see for the side streets. The Hampton Road itself, that Route 100, that connection from Hampton to Nuijawak to the Route 1 highway, I believe it trends around 3,000 or 4,000 vehicles on average, in a day. Sometimes it peaks up as high as 5, depending on where we see it. However, they would not generate enough traffic to see the warrants met. As a comparison, the arterial, when we did the analysis for the roundabout, we were hitting 7,500 vehicles a day, and it didn't warrant traffic lights at that particular time. So you have to get to that level, and that's how they keep that impartiality, that common measuring stick for all of the intersections, Your Worship.
Thank you. And just as a way of correction, it is Ms. Downey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for the Director of Engineering and Works. Maybe you don't know the answer to this, but one of the things I observe in that intersection is that, and perhaps it drives this request from the citizen, the traffic, you mentioned peak hours of the day, rush hour, morning and evening, afternoon, whatever. And I've certainly noticed that cars coming from Hammond River heading towards Route 1 highway tend to zip along pretty good. I would be not the least bit surprised that many people are exceeding the speed limit coming along there, and that drives some of the anxiety about trying to turn off of, Hampton Road onto Palmer Brook. And I just wonder if does the same process of having to go through the provincial sort of research item, a warrant, as you say, apply to creating something like a flashing speed sign, or like the laser ones we use that your speed is and slow down and that sort of thing. And I just wonder if that's an option that would be less expensive, easier to put in, and might satisfy some of what's driving this request. So I don't know that you can really know what this person's, particular issue is, but I just wonder, put that forward for discussion.
Ultimately, the province controls any adjustments to the traffic patterns on the Route 100, so that Hampton Road, right from the Route 1 ramp straight through to Hampton. So that's under the jurisdiction of the province. So similar to what happened here out at the Quispamsis Elementary School, where they put the speed controls with those lights, those, they actually dictate, okay, this is what, they have to be this size, this distance, this is what you can or cannot put up. Here's the speed limit zones that you have to do. So I think the nature of the correspondence that's being requested is I would take it as an overall review of the traffic in that particular area to see if there's anything that they can introduce. So I would look to them to say, yes, the traffic warrants may not be met, but can a speed zone be introduced, or can something else be introduced to help alleviate the concerns that have been forwarded to the town? So ultimately, if we drop it back to their department to do the analysis, then they would undertake, if it's something as simple as changing a speed zone, then they would have the legislative authority to undertake that right away, and we wouldn't have to do it backdoor. The province themselves do not use those reduced, the splashing lights like we've got at school zones. So it would be, if it's something like that's an option, then they would probably throw that back to the municipality and say, we give you permission to buy them and put them up, and as long as you meet our conditions. But they won't, they don't have that in their arsenal of stuff they want to undertake.
Thank you, Mr. Logier.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick follow-up. I guess what I'm suggesting is that, just to clarify, that if we were to deem that if we could discover that that is part of the problem, that people are sort of coming down Palmerbrook Road, heading to get up on the main highway at too zippy of a speed, doesn't Palmerbrook Road, doesn't that lie outside of the Hampton Road considerations that we're talking about here? That would be on us, wouldn't it?
It is still provincial access. It's just at the Route 100. So the Route 100 follows down through to the end of the train underpass, but the Palmer Brook is still, it's the same as the arterial. It falls under their jurisdiction. So then the question becomes, if they do change it, going back then to our local police enforcement, are they going to include that in their patrols? How often are they out there? Those types of things. So ultimately, any traffic control boils down to the level of enforcement that you're going to see with the train.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 10, bylaws. Item A, proposed amendment number 050-01, a bylaw for the municipality of Quispamsis. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Whereas a notice has been published on the Town of Quispamsis website pursuant to Section 15.3 and 15.4 of the Local Governance Act, the proposed bylaw amendment number 050-01 that received first and second reading at the September 7th, 2021 regular meeting, and is hereby summarized as follows: to revise sections in the bylaw to remove single-use plastic bags as acceptable recyclable waste as a result of the enactment of the town's reduction of single-use plastic bags bylaw number 061, along with further changes to Schedule A and C as defined by the Fundy Regional Services Commission as acceptable or non-acceptable collection items. That was a long sentence. Now therefore be it resolved that third and final reading be given to proposed amendment number 050-01, an amendment to the municipality of Quispamsis' solid waste collection and disposal bylaw, incorporating the changes as aforementioned.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Councillor Miller, is your computer up and working? Were you able to vote? Okay. Motion carried, 7-0. Thank you. New business. Item 11A, award of tender number 2021 TQ 07-27. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move to award the hydraulic wheeled excavator RFP 2021 TQ 07-27 to Paul Equipment and Sons without the additional hammer from the overall proposed equipment package for the price of $287,228, excluding HST.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier. We have a seconder. And seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question. Seeing there are none, please vote now. Councillor Miller, your vote is not showing up. You're good? Okay, thank you. We'll vote for you. Motion carried, 7-0. Thank you. Item 11B, Town of Quispamsis, proposed vaccination and testing. Joanna, would you like to, Ms. McGraw, would you like to speak to that, please?
Worship. So the town of Quispamsis has managed a pandemic since March 2020 and always ensured that we utilize best practice and recommendation from public health to keep our employees safe. Our team has worked diligently and efficiently at managing the constant changes, and there's been a lot, we all know that, and adjusted our safety protocols accordingly in the last 18 months. Now we're shifting to green. So in the green phase of the provincial recovery plan, it has placed a greater responsibility on employers to manage safety-related factors to COVID-19. And what I mean by that is before we had very clear guidelines from public health, but now we have to assess our own risk within our organization. Where before we had very, very well-defined guidelines, at this point, the guidelines are a little gray. So we've always, as an employer, had the responsibility under Occupational Health and Safety Act to ensure employees are safe while working in the town. And like I said, the mandatory order and the public health guidance was very clear. So we have surveyed our employees just recently and have currently an 83% vaccination rate at the town within our workforce. However, with the return of school and the seasonal shift to more indoor workspaces, we currently have a risk of exposure of COVID-19 within our workplaces. Many employees have to work side by side on a regular basis, and a lot of employees do have to share vehicles where physical distancing cannot be maintained. In addition, we've seen over the last few weeks, and especially over the last few days, a surge in COVID-19 cases increasing all around us in New Brunswick, and therefore increasing the risk of infection of COVID-19 within our workplace. As part of our COVID-19 safety strategy, we have created safety protocols and guidance documents since the start of our pandemic. However, we felt this new initiative should be presented and supported by council before we move forward. So you have in front of you a new vaccination and testing protocol. This is in line with what's currently required by all Government of New Brunswick employees from Part 1, 2, 3, 4. It's also in line with some of the policies and protocols that I've seen from other municipalities around us in the province of New Brunswick. I've also, during our last labor management last week, we did discuss with our union, and there was actually some requests from the union, from some part of the union, to have a protocol in place to keep them safe. So in summary, what our protocol is employees and council will have until October 12th to submit a vaccination record. On October 13th, individuals who wish not to share their vaccination status or are not vaccinated would have to follow our mask and testing protocol. So the mask and testing protocol includes masks will have to be worn at all times, and employees will have to complete 2 point-of-care testing twice per week and 1 polymerase chain reaction test that we all know as the PCR test. So 1 of those per month. This will serve as a safety screening tool to ensure employees remain safe. The point of care testing is proven to be a quick and reliable way of screening for COVID. The PCR test will be an added layer of protection since the test is effective and accurate. Point of care testing kits are currently available at no cost to the town from the Greater St. John Chamber of Commerce, and this is through the province of New Brunswick. So the town will coordinate the testing program at minimal costs, where we'll see some costs will be in the disposing of biohazard products. But this will be included in our current, will be taken care of in our current budget. The employees will be required to complete testing during their personal time and at their expense. So my request today from council is the council authorizes and directs the acting CAO to implement the vaccination testing protocol presented and further authorize the CAO or acting CAO to make amendments to the COVID-19 safety strategy as required, since this is already part of the level of authority of this position. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McGraw. Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I first want to say I'm really happy to see that our town is putting steps in place to protect the safety and the health of our employees. I think, the suggestions in the protocol are in keeping, as you mentioned, with, the provincial government, and I think they look really, really well done. You did mention that our staff currently are sharing vehicles, sharing workspaces. Earlier tonight, our mayor had alluded to, we're starting to see the rise in cases of COVID now, so the risk is also amongst us today. So the one question I do have that I couldn't figure out why we picked October 12th to activate this protocol. So if you could just clarify that, that would be great. Thank you.
Great question. I was trying to see what timeline we should give. So I actually used the province as an example. So they gave their employees 3 weeks notice, so I did the same. That's how I picked that date, really. Yeah.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a few comments that are related, directly and indirectly to the protocol. First, I'd like to take a moment to thank our staff for helping to ensure that our employees and residents can coexist in a safe and healthy environment. This is certainly really important to me, and I think my councilmates would agree. As most of us are probably aware by now, the provincial government has indicated that as of midnight tonight, masks will be mandatory indoors and residents will be required to show proof of vaccination to enter many establishments. I understand that this can at times be frustrating, but as these regulations go into place, I would like to remind everyone to please be kind to the employees of our local businesses. They will all be trying their best, and none of them deserve to be treated unkindly. Quispamsis is a town that is known all around for its friendly people, and I know that our community members will lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the report. I do have a question about the point of care testing. And so the employee would take it prior to their shift coming in for the day. So it says, please note that each test takes 15 minutes to complete. So is there a timeline? Like if they were to report at 8 o'clock and they took their test at 7:30, how does that timeline work? And how do you account for, heaven forbid, that they got a positive test? That would be the worst case scenario we could possibly have. But for staffing going forward, if somebody's going to be out, just wondering how you're dealing with that.
Timeline, yes. So we're gonna get some tests tomorrow, and we're actually gonna test the test to see how long the whole process takes. But once you've done the swabbing and you've put it in the buffering agent, you put your drops in that little test, it takes 15 minutes to process. So we want employees to make sure that they allow themselves enough time to complete that test. It most likely will take 15 to 20 minutes to complete the test. So make sure they complete that at home before reporting to work, and reporting to work on time. They will have to report their results once completed, and working out a little bit of the fine details, but we will need evidence of a negative test. If they are positive, and God forbid they are, they will not be able to report to work. They will have to report immediately to their manager that they are positive, and they will have to schedule a PCR test just to have a confirmation if they are in fact positive. So the language was written in the way that employees have to take the responsibility to take the test on their own time and ensure that they report to work on time for their shift.
Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Your Worship. As we heard from Councillor Donovan, as of tonight at midnight, anywhere that we go in public indoor spaces, we have to wear masks. I still am caught up in the October 12th, only because I think that's a long time between today and October 12th. And if we have some staff, and again, I would hate to see this happen, but I'm just wondering, because we have a smaller staff relative to all of the provincial government, is there either any way we can condense that time frame or look at interim measures to make sure we're still protecting our staff? Like, should everyone be wearing masks until October the 12th? Again, just because right now it seems like we are on the rise, and I would hate for us to end up, having a case before we start to implement the protocol.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, when I did my presentation, things evolved very quickly. So when I wrote this document and submitted to the council kit, we did not have the mask mandate that we will have in effect midnight tonight. So an email was sent to all our employees this morning to instruct them that as of tomorrow, we have to abide by the public health I don't know if we want to call them restrictions or new guidance. So all employees will have to wear a mask tomorrow in all common spaces. They will only be able to remove their mask when they are 2 meters apart or working in their own office. So tomorrow, everybody here at Town Hall and all our other facilities will be wearing their mask already. Our employees knew that this was going to be discussed tonight. We had a lot of eager employees that were coming to our offices today to show us their proof of vaccination. So we already have started kind of getting that information. So I feel we're going to be keeping our employees safe with the mask, definitely, and we've seen the case rise, so there are definitely some more risk. Thankfully, St. John area is doing better than the rest of the province, but yeah, we are putting those measures in place tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know it's the trend with the provincial government is 3 weeks or whatever it is, 5 weeks. However, I work for the provincial government, and our vaccine policy to prove you're double vaxxed, and if not, the implementation of the testing took place within a 5-day period. So everything was up and running within 5 days. So everybody was being tested that was not vaccinated, and 3 times a week, and I think once a month with the PCR. Just how quick it can happen.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move that Council authorizes and directs the acting CAO to implement the vaccination and testing protocol as presented, and further authorizes the CAO/acting CAO to make amendments to the COVID-19 safety strategy as required.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, seeing there are none. Oh, sorry. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm hearing some around the table about maybe the timeline being moved up. So I just want to make sure that we've exhausted that conversation and that we all feel comfortable with moving forward with that timeline of October 12th, or, what would be the barriers to bring the date up a little bit, and if that's possible.
I'll just bring people's attention to the end of the motion, where it gives permission for the CAO, acting CAO, to make amendments to the COVID-19 safety strategy as required. And as you had mentioned, this was written prior to the new protocols that have been put in place. So if changes do have to be made, am I correct in saying that the CAO will implement those very quickly and diligently under the provincial protocols?
I can see from around the table there's some concern with date. We're working out some logistics tomorrow. Once we have the tests in our hands, we'll really be able to kind of assess kind of the logistics behind the test management. But I think we were in a pretty good state at this point, so I definitely could talk to the acting CAO tomorrow and see if we could actually move that date up closer. And also looking at what is going on around the province, it might be a good option to do that.
Thank you very much. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, seeing there are none, please vote now. Okay. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item 12, reports. Anyone want to speak to any of the reports? Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know a lot of us have been waiting to hear about the local government reform, what we heard. So just to make it clear to anybody watching at home that it is available in the agenda package if anybody wishes to view that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
Yes, Your Worship, just to follow up on Councillor Donovan's statement on the local governance reform. I have registered to go to the meeting in, I think it's in Norton, right? And I believe Councillor Olson is also. So just a reminder that that invitation is out there for us to attend.
Thank you for that reminder. There is a motion Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move that the reports be received and filed. Thank you.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Luck. On the question, Councillor Luck, did you have a question on any of those? Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 13, business arising from Committee of the Whole. I believe there was none. So I will request an adjournment. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. I hope you find joy in the rest of your evening and in all of your tomorrows. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Second, I was going to show you the email.